In a perfect world, tennis instruction would be at a much higher level, and players wouldn't need to make significant changes in their game. But alas, the game has been dumbed down to where even something as fundamental as learning effective topspin is considered too much of a barrier to be bothered with. Learning a continental grip on the serve, something every high-level player does, isn't even being encouraged. Maybe you're a player who likes a challenge. Someone who could have handled a bit more of a learning curve, but instead are stuck at a 3 to 4 UTR because of ineffective fundamentals. Well, if you're here, I'm going to assume you might have at least considered revisiting some of your essential strokes. And it's not easy, but well worth the struggle. Maybe you've experienced doing a million shadow swings the right way, but still revert back to your old, inefficient stroke anytime the ball comes into play. I'm going to go over the barriers of making changes and give you some ideas and drills that could help you dramatically raise your level. There's two big barriers when it comes to making changes, and they're very much related. There's the physical challenge, and then there's the mental challenge. The physical challenge comes into play because anytime you make a change, you're never just making one change. On the forehand, for example, a common fix I perform with people is having them get their racket face below impact and closed. Not closing your face below contact is the primary flaw. Not being able to follow through, decelerating your racket into contact, scooping the ball, and even a contact that's too close are secondary problems caused by this. So undoubtedly, when I first get a player to close their racket face, the first ball they hit will go straight into the ground. You still have other adjustments to make. If you don't follow through, the ball will certainly not grab on the strings. This is where the mental aspect comes into play. The player will either proceed to tell everyone how I destroyed their game, or they'll be prepared to take those 2 steps back for 10 steps forward. It sucks messing up and having to think about what you're doing, but this process is inevitable. One of my favorite Vic Braden quotes: "If the pain of losing is greater than the pain of change, then they'll make the change." In addition to there always being other adjustments related to the primary flaw, we face a whole other set of problems when the ball is coming at us. You see, the brain has gauged your arrangement to the ball based off your old stroke. On the volley, for example, many players have either been taught or come to the conclusion that the volley is a punching motion way out in front of the body, when in fact the most effective volleyers volley from the shoulder, where contact is slightly in front but more to the side. When these players first try their new volley, despite utilizing their new swing, they'll still end up lining in front of the ball. This will typically cause you to either shank off the inside of your racket, or even worse, have to duck before getting hit in the face. It's for these reasons that even if you do a million shadow swings, you still just end up reverting back to your old swing when the ball's in play. So the first thing you have to do to make changes is create a safe space to fail. A ball machine, for example, is a great tool when making changes. There's no one dependent on you to keep the rally going. You're not worried about winning, and you might even be able to find a secluded court where no one is watching and judging. My only warning when it comes to the ball machine is to be cautious of not actually repeating the new swing pattern. People can get very good at timing a bad stroke with the same ball coming over and over. Remember to stay focused on the primary flaw and exaggerate it. I also highly recommend setting up your phone and filming yourself to make sure the correction is present when practicing. The goal from here is to get to the point where you can increase how dynamic and competitive of a setting you're practicing in. This isn't a perfect linear line. You want to keep challenging yourself, but don't be afraid to get back on the ball machine if things fall apart. The serve has its own set of obstacles when it comes to making an adjustment in your motion. Rather than positioning to the ball, you struggle with timing the rhythm and speed of the new swing to the old toss. Here's a sequence of drills that can really help you make a change in your serve. First, when you do your shadow swings, make sure you're including and visualizing the toss in play. Your brain knows how gravity works, and this can help when it's time to include it. Next, do the throwaway drill. Go out to the court and practice your new motion, but when you toss the ball, just throw it away somewhere where it can't actually be hit. This will start to form a connection, but not make you entirely dependent on the toss. Lastly, continue to practice your new motion, but intentionally throw the toss too high. You'll swing under the ball and again be closer to incorporating your new motion. The goal here is to commit to the new motion and gradually lower the toss until it's in timing with the new swing. The goal ultimately here is to time the toss to the swing and not the swing to the toss. I often get the reputation as a good technical coach, But I always remind people that's only because most players did not learn effective fundamentals at the beginning of their development. I have plenty of players who were fortunate enough to have learned tennis correct early and very quickly didn't even have to think about technique. They were able to move on to tactics, footwork, and other dynamic principles quickly. They also didn't have the stress of getting stuck at lower level tennis for any length of time. If you think you could be a better ball striker, or just want the information that matters, consider joining the Brain Trust and purchasing my Tennis Essentials bundle. 5 full courses covering the 7 essential strokes of tennis every player should strive to master. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.